Do you know why God takes everything away from you? Because as long as you depend on others, you will never depend on Him. Maybe this pain you are feeling now is not the end. Maybe it is the beginning, because when you have no one else, that is when you discover that God is all you need. There comes a time when everything disappears. People disappear. Friends become silent. The plans you swore would work fall apart right in front of you. And then, you find yourself alone, with a tired soul, a tight chest, and a burning question inside. What now? It is at this moment that many people break down. They give up. They give up. Because it is easy to move forward when everything is working. When there is someone to support you, applaud you, lift you up. But when all that is left is silence, when no one answers the phone, when you don't even believe in yourself anymore, what is left? The truth is hard, but you need to hear this. Sometimes God lets everything fall apart, just to show you that He is the only one who never left you. Maybe this is exactly what you are going through right now. Maybe you are at the lowest point in your life, emotionally, financially, spiritually. Maybe no one knows about your pain, but God knows. He saw what was taken from you. He saw how you tried to hide your despair with a fake smile. He saw the nights you prayed in silence, not even knowing what to say. And maybe, just maybe, this pain is the beginning of something bigger. Napoleon Hill, the man behind Think and Grow Rich, didn't just talk about success. Behind the lessons, on wealth, influence, and achievement, there was a message that almost no one noticed, a truth that was forgotten, ignored, hidden between the lines. He said, "Faith is the only known antidote for failure." In other words, faith is the only true antidote for failure. But this faith he spoke of wasn't faith in himself. It wasn't faith in the system. It was faith in something bigger. It was faith in God. And even though people just repeat the nice phrases about thinking big or millionaire mentality, those who really understood what he meant know, when you lose everything, that's when you discover that God is all you need. This video is not about religion. It's about reality. About that point in life when you've tried everything and nothing worked. When you've chased everyone and no one stayed. When you've tried to be strong, but you're tired of pretending. If you're at this point, it's no coincidence that you've gotten here. Because before rebuilding your life, God needs to empty you of everything that was holding you back. And yes, that hurts. But it also frees you. It frees you from the need to prove yourself, to please, to carry the world on your shoulders. And when you finally understand that, the pain starts to turn into strength. Despair starts to turn into direction. Napoleon Hill knew this, but not everyone understood it, because he used words that the world accepts: success, wealth, mindset. But what he was talking about was something eternal, something invisible, something that sustains everything when everything else falls: the presence of God. So listen, you are not alone. No matter what anyone says, no matter how many have left, no matter how many have let you down, God is still there. And He is not silent because He has abandoned you. He is silent because He is preparing you. When everything else fails, that is when He begins. And in this video you will understand this forgotten truth. You will discover what Napoleon Hill really meant. You will look within and finally realize you have not lost everything. You are about to find what really matters. Have you ever noticed how, when everything starts to go wrong, the first thing that disappears is the people? Those who claim to always be there for you disappear. Friends become silent. Family moves away, and even those you helped ignore your cry for help. It seems like the whole world turns its back on you, just when you need it most. But there is a truth that almost no one talks about, and that you may have never stopped to think about. Sometimes God takes everyone away from you, just to be alone with you. Because if He doesn't take away the noise, you won't hear His voice. If He doesn't allow you to be left, you will never understand that you were never truly abandoned. Some people think that emptiness is a punishment, But emptiness is an invitation to look within, an invitation to disconnect from what is shallow, an invitation to understand that there is a purpose even in solitude. And it is in this place of silent pain, where no one knocks on your door, where no one calls you, where no one asks how you are, that God begins to work. That is when He shows you the truth that you ignored for so long, that everything you thought sustained you was just an illusion. The job, the status, the convenient friendships, the applause, the "I'm here for anything" that disappeared at the first sign of trouble. All of that was quicksand, and you clung to it like a rock. But God let you fall, not to destroy you, but to show you where the real ground is. Because while you thought it was control of the situation that kept you steady, He was just waiting for you to get tired, to finally give control to Him. And yes, sometimes He allows life to crush you, not because He is cruel, but because He knows that there is a version of you that is only born of pain, the version that truly prays, that truly surrenders, that stops pretending that everything is okay, that stops looking for in everyone what only He can give. It's strange, right? We have to lose everything to realize that God was everything. But that's how He works. He doesn't want to see you fall. He wants to see you depending. Depending not on men, not on empty promises, not on momentary praise, but on Him. Because when you depend on God, you will never be empty again. You never have to beg for attention again. You never have to hide your pain again. Because He sees you. He knows you. And He doesn't need words to understand what your heart is screaming. You may be living in the desert right now, that phase where it seems like nothing is moving forward, nothing is happening, nothing is getting better. But listen, the desert is not the end. The desert is the place of transformation. It was in the desert that Moses found his mission. It was in the desert that Jesus faced the devil. It was in the desert that God spoke loudest. So, if you are there, tired, lost, lonely, don't rebel, retreat, surrender, because this silence is God speaking. This pain is God cleansing. This loneliness is God calling you. And when you stop resisting, when you stop trying to control everything by yourself, you will realize that what you thought was the end was just the beginning of a new life. A life where you no longer need to chase the approval of others. A life where you no longer need to prove your worth all the time. A life where you discover that being enough for God is everything. You may have lost the whole world, but if you still have God, you still have what matters most. When people talk about Napoleon Hill, most people think of one thing: money, prosperity, success, the millionaire mindset. But if you read Think and Grow Rich carefully, with an open mind, you will realize that this book was never just about wealth. It was about faith. In fact, the word faith appears dozens of times in the work. Hill spoke of the mind, but he always linked the mind to a greater force. He used terms like infinite intelligence, divine power, higher source. And in several passages, he made it clear: there is a power greater than man, a power that never fails, never sleeps, and never makes mistakes. Do you understand the weight of this? Napoleon Hill was trying to tell the world that there is a presence beyond our strength, that trusting only in yourself is walking on thin ice, but trusting in God is walking on rock. And yet, the world ignored this part. They only cut out what was important. Think positive. Set. Causing you visualize wealth. But they took out the main foundation: faith. Because Hill himself said, faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with thought, the subconscious instantly picks up the vibration. In other words, your thoughts only become reality when they are impregnated with faith. And this faith, it's not in just anything. It's not faith in slogans, ready-made phrases, or cosmic vibrations. It's faith in something eternal. It's faith in God. Hill knew this. But the world ignored it. Because it's easier to sell promises of success than to invite people to trust in the invisible. Because it's more profitable to talk about millionaires than about prayer. But you've come this far not because you want a magic formula. You want the truth, and the truth is this: faith is the bridge between what you don't have and what God wants to give you. Faith is the silent fuel that moves His plans. It's the key that opens doors that your strength will never be able to push. Hill said that faith must be felt with the heart, because that's where everything begins. It's in the heart that you decide to continue even without having anything. It's in your heart that you pray, even when it seems like no one is listening. It's in your heart that you keep the promise, even when the world only shows you failure. And that's why he wrote, "Faith is the only known antidote for failure." Think about it. Not effort, not intelligence, not technical knowledge. The only antidote for failure is faith. And that changes everything, because when you understand that, you stop despairing about results. You stop measuring your worth by how much you have in your bank account. You stop thinking you're behind, lost, or alone. Because as long as you have faith, you'll never truly hit rock bottom. God doesn't work on human timetables. He doesn't act when you want Him to. He acts when you're ready. And maybe this time of pain, this silence, this scarcity, are exactly what He is using to prepare you. Napoleon Hill knew this, but he spoke in a way that the world could understand. Now you are understanding what he really meant. Because the truth is not in the brilliance of success. It is in the quiet power of faith, which sustains you in the dark days and paves the way for the days of light. You have spent your whole life trying to control everything, haven't you? Planning every step, anticipating every problem, trying to predict what others will think, how they will react, what they will say. Always trying to keep things together, always afraid of losing something. But answer me honestly, has it been working? All that tension you carry in your shoulders, that knot in your stomach, that anxiety you can't explain. It's all the result of a desperate effort to maintain control of a life that, deep down, you know is not in your hands. The truth that no one has told you is that control is an illusion, and that the peace you seek so much doesn't come when you solve everything. It only comes when you surrender. And yes, surrendering is scary. It's scary to let go of the steering wheel. It's scary to trust without any guarantees. It's scary to stop fighting with your own strength and simply say, "God, I don't know what to do anymore, take care of it." But what seems like weakness is actually the beginning of your strength. Because when you let go, God takes hold. When you stop running in circles, He shows you the way. When you say, "I can't do it," He says, "I know, but I can." You think you need to prove that you're strong all the time. But perhaps at this moment, what God wants to see is your surrender. Because it is in surrender that you finally stop fighting against what you cannot change and start living what really matters. Surrender is the key to transformation. It is not conforming, it is trusting. It is not giving up, it is resting. Hill also spoke about this, in a subtle way. When you are truly ready for a thing, it will come to you. And you are only truly ready when you trust in God's timing. Surrendering creates space. Space to hear God's voice in the midst of chaos. Space to notice the signs. Space to rebuild your life. Not as it was before, but as it should have been from the beginning. But as long as you are clinging to the past, to pride, to the fear of appearing weak, nothing new can come in, because faith only acts when there is space, and God only acts when there is surrender. Maybe what is holding you back the most today is not pain. It is attachment. Attachment to people who have gone. To dreams that have not come true. To plans that enslave you. To stories that only hurt you. And while you keep trying to hold on to all of this, your hands will be too busy to receive what God wants to give you. That's why, let go. Let go now. Let go with faith. It's not about ignoring your problems, it's about stopping carrying everything alone. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This invitation was not just for those who live in the first century. It was for you. For you who are tired of fighting with your own strength. For you who can no longer stand pretending that you are okay. For you who wake up with a heavy chest and go to sleep asking for a sign. Here is the sign. You don't have to live like this anymore. You don't have to try to prove all the time that you are enough, because God has already accepted you, even before you get it right. And the only thing He is waiting for is your sincere surrender. And do you know what happens when you surrender? Something changes, not outside, but inside. You stop rushing. You stop comparing yourself. You stop demanding answers now, because you understand that God is already taking care of you, that even when everything seems to be at a standstill, He is working behind the scenes, that even when you don't feel it, He is close. When you surrender, you heal. The wound may still hurt, but it no longer dominates you. Doubt may still come, but it no longer paralyzes you. Fear may still scream, but you learn to hear the voice of faith, louder, clearer, stronger. And it is at this time that you discover what true freedom is, no longer depending on the perfect life to have peace, but having peace, even with an imperfect life. This is spiritual maturity. This is living faith. This is what Napoleon Hill called an armored state of mind. A confidence that does not depend on circumstances. A courage that does not come from you, but from God in you. Because now, finally you have stopped fighting the process, and you have started walking with God, not ahead of Him. And when you walk with God, everything changes. Even what seems like a delay becomes protection. Even what seemed like a loss becomes liberation. Even what seemed like the end becomes a new beginning. So yes, surrender hurts. But it hurts much more to live trying to control everything and everyone, always feeling inadequate, always tired, always at war with yourself. That is why this is the time. Don't put it off until later. Today could be the day you stop resisting and finally start living by faith. You won't lose anything that is truly yours. And everything that leaves your life now is making room for something infinitely better. God only needs one thing from you: trust. Not perfection, not religion, just trust. Because those who trust don't need to see the whole path. Those who trust just need to take the next step, and that step could be now. Sometimes what hurts the most isn't the pain. It's not the loss, nor the fear. It's the silence of God. That moment when you bend your knees, pray, cry, beg for an answer, and all you hear is the sound of your own heart beating fast. Have you ever felt that? That feeling of talking to yourself, of asking for a sign, and seeing nothing, doing everything right, and yet heaven seems closed? If so, then you are where many great men and women have been. Because God's silence is not punishment. It is not indifference. It is not absence. God's silence is a method, a sacred process, an invisible training for your soul. It is in the silence that He tests your patience. It is in the silence that He reveals who you are when no one is looking. It is in the silence that He deepens your faith. Because now, you don't believe out of emotion. You believe out of decision. Real faith is not feeling. Real faith is following, even when you feel absolutely nothing. And that is why, many times, you will not hear the answer in the time you want. Because God is more interested in who you are becoming than in simply giving you something. He is forming you, forging you from within, taking away illusions, excesses, pride, and haste. Hill talked about this too. He said, "Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. But this benefit only arises in silence, because it is in silence that you learn to trust without proof. It is in silence that you learn to listen more and speak less, to observe more and judge less. It is in silence that faith stops being an idea and becomes your sustenance. Think about it. A teacher never talks during a test. The teacher's silence doesn't mean he's gone away. It means he wants to see what you've learned. And with God, it's exactly like that. Silence is proof. Proof that you're ready to trust even without understanding. That you've grown beyond easy promises. That you have roots, and not just emotions. Sometimes he is silent because you are so surrounded by voices that you can no longer hear his. He is silent so that you can clear your mind, so that you can purify your heart, so that you can enter your desert, and finally look within. The desert is not a place of death. It is a place of rebirth. No, one leaves there the same way they entered. You either leave broken, or you leave awake, and those who awaken in silence are never again dominated by the noise, because the world will continue shouting, "You need this now. You are late. You have to prove your worth." But God's silence teaches you to respond to all this with peace. It teaches you to listen to the sound of your own soul. It teaches you to stop running and start walking. Do you know why? Because those who run too much stumble, but those who walk with God arrive at the right time, and while that time doesn't come, silence is polishing you, polishing your pride, polishing your emotional dependence, polishing your mania for wanting to control everything. Silence makes you realize that you don't have to understand everything now, that you don't have to feel everything now, that you don't have to have all the answers now. You just have to trust. Trust that heaven is still listening, that God hasn't turned his back, that this process is part of it. Napoleon Hill understood this late. When fame came, he lost almost everything. He started over more than once. He went through depression, persecution, bankruptcy, and that's when he wrote with more depth. That's when he stopped talking only about goals and started talking about God, about faith, about purpose. Because it's easy to talk about God when everything is going well. It's hard to keep the faith when he's silent. But that's where true spiritual power lies. When you stop worshiping the results and start worshiping the presence. When you understand that he doesn't need to talk all the time. Because sometimes his silence carries more love than 1,000 human answers. Maybe God is silent because you need to hear something that only silence can tell you. Maybe he's allowing this emptiness so that you finally pay attention to what's too full inside. Your expectations, your attachments, your rushes, your idealizations. He wants space, and silence is the most powerful way to create this space. And do you know what's most beautiful? That even in silence, God is still present. He sees you waking up tired. He sees you holding back your tears so no one notices. He sees you saying it's okay when inside everything is falling apart. He sees you. He knows. He feels. And in due time, he will speak. He will open doors. He will surprise you. But until then, don't ignore what the silence wants to show you. That you are stronger than you think. That you can walk without seeing the path. That you can continue even with your heart in pieces. Because true faith is not the one that waits for a miracle to start acting. It is the one that acts because it trusts in the miracle before it happens. And you have this faith inside you. You just need to let the silence finish the job, because it didn't come to punish you. It came to prepare you. There comes a time in life when everything falls. Apart, friends disappear, money disappears, plans fail, your health falters, your mind freezes, and you look around and realize that there is no one else, just you and God. And that's when everything changes. Because when God is all that's left, you finally understand that he was always all you needed. The rest? It was an illusion. It was support that didn't last. It was distraction, disguised as a solution. You spent so much time trying to be strong for everyone that you forgot to be honest with God. You spent so much time seeking approval, recognition, money, control, that you didn't realize that none of that fills the soul. You ran. You fought. You tried, and you got here, tired, full of doubts, with your soul scratched inside. But there is a truth that you need to hear now. not for religious reasons, but for survival. Only God can heal this hole that you feel inside. Only Him, not the answer, not the new job, not the ideal person, not the likes, the followers, the fame. Only Him. Because what you are looking for is not a solution. It is meaning, and meaning cannot be bought. It is not found in the world. Meaning is revealed when you surrender. Hill learned this the hard way. After years of talking about wealth, he had to go through scarcity to understand the value of God's presence. It was in the moments when he had nothing left that he began to write what really mattered. And it is the same with you too. Your scars are spiritual letters. Your losses prepared you for something greater. What you don't understand now will later become testimony, but for that, you will have to surrender. Don't give up. Surrender. They are different things. Giving up is when you lose faith. Surrendering is when you give control back to God, and He knows what to do with your pain. He knows what to do with your despair. He knows how to transform even your chaos into something beautiful. But He can't do that if you keep trying to solve everything your way. So maybe now, in this moment when everything seems lost, you have finally arrived at the right place, the end of yourself, the beginning of God. Because when you stop running, God begins to walk with you. When you stop resisting, He begins to rebuild, and He doesn't start where you left off. He starts the right way, without masks, without illusions, without pride, just you and Him. A reunion with your own essence, a silence that heals, a cry that cleanses, a purpose that is reborn. What you lived was not in vain. That pain was not useless. That loss was not punishment. It was preparation to teach you to value the invisible, to trust in what you cannot see, to strengthen yourself from the inside out. Because when God is all that is left, you stop worrying about what is missing, and you begin to realize what has always been there: your faith, your essence, your mission. You are not alone. You never have been. What you feel now may seem like abandonment, but in truth, it is the invisible touch of a God who is silently lifting you up. He has not forgotten you. He is just molding you, because what is coming is greater than what you have lost. But you need to be ready. Ready to no longer depend on anyone to be happy. Ready to not hide behind status, money, or image. Ready to trust even without understanding. You will not emerge from this phase broken. You will emerge reborn. And when you look back, you will understand why everything had to happen this way, because the rock bottom that you thought was the end, in fact, was the foundation of your new beginning. And this new beginning has God at its center, and that changes everything. Now you have roots. Now you have purpose. Now you have direction. You may even walk in the dark, but the light that guides you comes from within. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can extinguish in that light. Now take a deep breath. If this message touched your heart, it is because God wanted to speak to you today. So do the following. Leave an amen in the comments if you felt you needed to hear this. Write in the comments, I trust in God even when I don't understand the plan. This is not just a comment, it is an act of faith. It is you saying to the universe, I do not give up, I trust. And if you know someone who is going through a difficult time, send this video. Maybe this message will be the answer to someone's prayer. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now. This is your place of refuge, faith, and awakening. Every week there is a new video to remind you that you are not alone, and God is still in control.